and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, oh boy, we've got just a lovely, lovely show planned. We've got Dieter Kurtenbach here, a good friend of the program, who is just ceaselessly and endlessly needling me on my computer problems.
Sorry. I legitimately feel bad at this juncture.
You feel bad for me, not like about the fact that my computer is bad.
It's going both ways now. I was thinking about putting together a GoFundMe to get you just a basic MacBook.
I don't need it. It's just like
Sam, every week we have a new conversation about how you absolutely do need it. Like, do you need it in the sense of like, will your life end if you don't have it? No, like it's not a true necessity, but you kind of need it.
I guess that, like, as someone who uses his computer
every day for their job, yeah,
I could probably
hours a day. I mean, I don't know, man. It's only your livelihood.
I could probably get away with the new one. This episode, we're going to talk about a lot of different random stuff that is happening in the NBA. We're going to talk about the Golden State Warriors, quote unquote, blowing up last night.
It's all over.
Dynasty done. We're going to talk about the Celtics losing 4 of 5 and why that's happening. We're going to talk about Caris LeVert, Carmelo Anthony, the new Timberwolves, and Karl Anthony Towns going for a 2020 last night. And then
sorry, it's just so silly.
Yeah. The Bills decided to cut Nathan Peterman, and Peterman is now
R.I.P. Nathan Peterman. I'll tell you this: I don't think he's going to be gone for long. Because I cover an NFL team out here that is – I cover 2 NFL teams that are quite terrible. And, heck, both of them might be looking for a quarterback here in the next couple of weeks. I might get the Peterman in my day-to-day life. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to fly it up.
If you get the Peterman in your day-to-day life, we're going to be, like, on the phone texting.
Every day.
Hourly. Like, not every day. We text, like, every day, like – we text like every day, like 5 times, 5 out of 7 days a week anyway. So like it's going to be hourly. I will demand hourly assessments of the Peterman so that I know what is going on in his life. I need to know that he will be playing again in the NFL and that I can enjoy him throwing pick sixes consistently. The funniest thing about this is you're 100% right that I think Gruden is going to sign him.
Oh, I love it.
Because
love it.
If you saw last night, the Athletics Minnesota Vikings writer.
Yeah. Try the name.
Arif,
Try the
I believe
name.
his name is.
Arif's the man.
Yeah. He sent along a scouting report that John Gruden decided to publish.
I watched the entire 22-minute fucking quarterback camp video, and he likes him a lot.
It's happening. Like, he's like, Nathan Peterman is the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft class.
If that's what pro-ready looks like, we got a problem because Fat Barkley was signed off the street and just went off. And you're wondering, how the hell did we get to the point where you could sign Matt Barkley? They scored like 30, 41 points, something like that.
They scored 31 in the first half.
just going off. And meanwhile, Nathan Peterman, like, he can't seem to. What was it? Tom Brady. Someone said that Tom Brady would have to throw an interception on every single one of his. We were going through the math last night at the Niners game. Like, how long would it take Tom Brady to match Nathan Peterman's interception percentage? And, like, it became, like, legitimately difficult to find a circumstance in which he would be able to do it before age 60.
Yeah, it's like hundreds of throws.
It's hundreds of throws, of course. Yeah. But, like, the issue, too, is if you throw an interception, very difficult to, throw another ball. Like, the other team has it. You don't get a lot of chances to do it. Yeah. So it's very similar to, like, if Bill Belichick lost for the next 10 years, he'd still have a better win percentage than, like, Hugh Jackson, stuff like that. But the Peterman might be coming. I do this show from the guest bedroom at my place in Oakland. I imagine that I'll just have to clean it out and make sure that you can live here so you can get Peterman all day, every day.
No, I'm not coming to live there. That guest bedroom is going to be the Peterman's. Like, the Peterman has come to stay with you and Heather, and I will make occasional, like, maybe once in a blue moon visits just to say hi. Like, this is what's happening.
All right, let's talk about this Warriors thing because we might be focusing on football on my day-to-day beat here pretty soon. It's all over.
The Golden State Warriors lose to the Los Angeles Clippers last night. 121-115 was the final. 116, something like that.
Doesn't matter. They lost in overtime.
They lost in overtime to the Clippers. Also, shout out Draymond Green for going to the USC game on Sunday night against Vanderbilt. It was great. And then he decided to make bigger news by having a confrontation with Kevin Durant at the end of regulation, where he decides to grab and go on the break with, 6 seconds left in the game?
Yeah, he got around half court at 3.54 seconds remaining.
Yeah, and just dropped the ball, kind of, got stripped.
I think he was going to the hoop. I think he was trying to go into the hoop and a dish out, but it didn't work.
And Kevin Durant was standing next to him right whenever he got the basketball, originally on the glass. So Kevin Durant was asking for the ball, and this is a game where Kevin Durant had scored, I want to say, 33, 12, and 10. He had 33 total. Let me see what he had in the first. I mean, yeah, he was doing well. He wasn't that efficient, though. I mean, it was kind of like this classic old school KD game. He only shot 41% in the contest. Just a lot of free throws. But yeah. he also had a triple double, so it's not as if he was shitty. Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin played super well, and Draymond Green decided, hey, this is the last possession. I'm going to go up and I'm going to try and score.
To be fair, the Warriors did go on an 11-0 run to tie the game.
Yeah.
So they were totally locking down on defense. Draymond, of course, at the epicenter of all that. I think he had 2 steals down the stretch. The Warriors played like absolute crap for pretty much the entire game. They were disinterested. LA Nightlife was undefeated once again. And then they kind of just turned it on at the end with Draymond being the engine, because that's what Draymond is. And Durant was going off. Clay was going off. Good vibes, good juju. And then not so much, because this is the diametrically opposed concepts that have kind of created some friction before with this Warriors team. KD wanted to walk it up and game 3 the shot, as he has done twice in the NBA Finals and countless times before that. And Draymond wanted to play Warrior-style basketball, which is, we're not going to call a timeout in this situation. We're going to push it, and we're going to see what happens. We will live in chaos. Works a little bit better when Stephen Curry's there, but alas, that's the way that the Warriors play. That's the way Draymond Green wants to play, and ultimately that's the way Steve Kerr wants to play. So,
isn't it Steve's default, though, late in games like that, to call a timeout?
No.
Once you get to half court?
No, he gets he's kind of weird about it. He'll do it every now and again, don't get me wrong, but he prefers to not let the defense set up. I mean, this is the one.
By the way, the math is in favor of what Steve Kerr does there. Basically, anytime that you have a situation where the defense can set itself, your expected points per possession goes down by 0.1 or 0.15 or something like that.
So Kevin Durant walking the ball up the court and then just shooting a dead-eye 3 in somebody's face, which, by the way, would have been fairly difficult to do, I would argue, given the fact that there wasn't a lot of time left on the clock. He would have had to hustle a little bit. I don't know if that's somehow a better option than Draymond cutting to the hoop, trying to take advantage of chaos, and then throwing it out to KD, who would most likely be wide open or have the exact same circumstance without an entire defense staring at him. So, alas, it was, because Draymond turned the ball over, it became kind of a thing. And they went at it. I
was going to say, it then became a real thing because Draymond Green and Kevin Durant decided to get in a bit of an arguing match on the bench. Kevin Durant obviously confronted him about his decision. Draymond Green comes back and says something to him. Durant seems like he takes it kind of well. He says at some point, pass me the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And then he takes it well, and then it does seem to kind of turn a little bit negative again after that. Eventually it gets to the point where Andre Iguodala takes Kevin Durant over to one side, and DeMarcus Cousins takes Draymond Green over to the other side. They calm each other down. They eventually get into overtime. They lose because weird shit happens in 5-minute bursts in NBA basketball. And I guess that now the reporting from originally Adrian Wojnarowski and Mark Spears was that they continued this discussion in the locker room before the media got in.
Yeah.
And there was some sort of shouting match. It wasn't physical. It wasn't anything like that. They just continued to argue with one another about the decision. And I think that there was a report out there as well saying that some of the other Warriors actually confronted Draymond Green about his decision at the end of this game and the way that they want to run things at the end of this.
Yeah. I think that's mostly sanctioning the result more than the concept. But and he turned the ball over. It was a really ugly play. Draymond's had some issues with turnovers this season. It's clearly been an issue for him overall. And if you are in a situation where you kind of make this wonderful run to win the game. Let's be honest. When you have Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant on your team, the last guy you probably want between the three options is Draymond Green to have the ball in that situation. But and this is where Steve Kerr comes in. We haven't heard anything about how Steve has handled it. I'll hear from him in a couple of hours here in regards to like how is he handling it? Because I know that Steve likes to push the ball in that situation. Doesn't always do it, but he likes to do it in that situation. They had a timeout left. If Steve just calls a timeout, there's no issue, because whatever Steve draws on the board, that's the play. And he certainly can draw up some after timeouts. But it's just not a thing. People are going to make it out to be a thing. And Draymond Shams is coming out and saying that Draymond confronted KD about his pending free agency, which if you're going to talk trash to Draymond Green, you should expect a certain level of clapback. And Draymond's going to go right to the weak point for anybody. That is what Draymond Green is wired to do. He finds your weak point and then he exploits it. He's done it to everyone he has ever met multiple times. He knows everyone's weak point. He is a savant at it. So yelling at KD about like you leaving or not is going to be his immediate thing. This is not the first time in the last calendar year. It's about the fifth time that Durant and Draymond have gotten into it, quote unquote. Like these guys go at each other because Draymond.
They're very different human beings.
They could not be more different human beings. Like Kevin is a passive guy, very.
But it's passive aggression too, where he will be super passive aggressive about something, and Dre is like, "No, fuck that. I'm going to come back." This
could not be more.
We don't do that.
Yeah, when I say they could not be more opposite, I mean that in an almost literal way. Like Draymond is fire and fury, and I will grind my way to victory. And Kevin is very laissez-faire, go with the flow. And Draymond feels his responsibility on the team is to call out Kevin when he's being kind of a punk. And that wasn't the circumstance that led to this. But like them going at each other is nothing new. This happened in the playoffs last year. It happened twice in the regular season last year. Let's not forget, Draymond's the guy who called Kevin and said, you got to come here. Like there is a certain level of mental Sherpa that is happening there. And so KD kind of starting something a little bit with Draymond was not going to sit well, because Draymond's like, I'm the one who has to constantly call you out for being too passive, for not going hard enough, for not knowing that you are one of the greatest players of all time and a completely dominant force. I have to constantly call you out. Now you're coming back at me over a fuck up. And Draymond doesn't do self-reflection in the moment all that great. Like that's just not his personality. He will project insecurity in that situation, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. He's not special or different or fucked up in any sense. Like he fucked up. He's going to be angry at himself, and he's going to take that out if someone comes back at him, because he's pouring his heart out every single game. So most of the guys on the team, from what I could surmise, were like, yeah, this is not abnormal. But the cameras caught it. Steph wasn't around. And this is the big thing. I talked to Kerr about this last week for a bigger fucking story I was doing about how the Warriors seem to constantly avoid drama.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, but good quotes. Apropos for a column today, that isn't going to be the big thing I wanted it to be. But Steve said, yes, Draymond will run hot. I will get too ideologically idealistic. Kevin will kind of go in and out of joint being with us, and not like all of these personalities shouldn't mix together, but we always come back to the fact that we're all competitive and we want to win in our own different ways, and they could not be more different. And we want to play with joy. And he says it always comes back to the joy, and it's so easy to come back to joy when you have Steph Curry on your team, because Steve said when he took the job, his first goal was, how do I make it so that we play basketball with joy? And he gets to the first workout, practice, whatever, and he sees Steph Curry dicking around, and he goes, well, it looks like that won't be the hard part of this job, because I got the living embodiment of it right here. Like, this guy is everything everyone said he would be and more. So all I have to do is lean on him to just be Steph Curry. Well, Steph's not around. I mean, he's hanging around with the team, but he's not playing. And so that base has been separated a little bit, but I imagine, this is not going to be something that actually blows up the Warriors. Like, this is not abnormal, even though it seems a bit more blown out than prior instances.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what immediately struck me about it, is that I didn't really think it was that big of a deal. It was a big deal because everything with the Warriors is a big deal.
Correct.
Because
of the KD thing, which That's the sore spot.
That's where this comes from, right? Like, that's why this is a thing. It's because Kevin Durant is a free agent at the end of the season. And apparently, if Draymond Green is bringing up the fact that he is a free agent at the end of the season and is bringing this up in his discussion with Kevin, that is where we're going to go to eventually, right? Like, Shams reporting this makes me think that, hey, it might be a slightly bigger deal than what would have been anticipated, because this is something that would have eventually happened, right? Like, if Dre already has this in the back of his mind,
they
as
all
a
have it in the
bullet
back
to
of
use
their
in his gun, this is something that was going to pop at some point, right?
Absolutely.
You and I have been pretty clear on this, that we think this is probably the last year of the Warriors, like, quote unquote, like, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry dynasty.
I'm not sure.
I'm not. Look, neither of us are sure.
And I go from a small plurality of he's leaving to runoff vote scenario. Not to use too many election terms, but like I've never felt a true conviction one way or another of like, oh, he's definitely going or this and that. All possibilities are on the table. This, in fact, doesn't move the needle for me at all in that regard. As someone who is, I
agree.
Every single goddamn day you're around the Warriors, the number one thing that looms over everything is Kevin Durant is a free agent at the end of the year, and this could be the end of the dynasty. It's the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the only thing. Everything is tainted with
because
that.
Nothing right now matters. Like,
correct.
Nothing. We'll talk about one thing in a second here that I think might be relatively important, but like none of it matters. We're in fucking November.
Exactly.
Like, none of this is important. The Warriors are fine. Like, there's only one spot that worries me right now on the Warriors, and it's going to get an infusion of DeMarcus Cousins in January.
And I don't even know if they should be that worried about that spot, because Kevon Looney's really good, and they have 4 other All-Stars. And it's like,
I will say, Kevon got wrecked last night. Like,
he was on the court for that 11-0 run.
He was.
Montrezl Harrell's a much better player. I was
going to say, Montrez caused a lot of problems last night.
He does it for a lot of people. Montrezl Harrell is almost the perfect modern NBA center in the small ball era. I mean, if you're not going to get like a guy like Ayton or something, like, I don't know how everyone's just been sleeping on Montrezl Harrell.
I mean, I don't remember if it was you and I or me and someone else. I mean, we said on this podcast that like Montrezl Harrell, 2 years, $6 million a year was like one of the best contracts signed last summer.
We have had that conversation at some point in our life because
like it made no sense why the Wizards signed Dwight Howard to 1 year, 5.5, and didn't give Montrezl Harrell the full mid-level exception. Like, give him 4 years, 28, I think it is.
And by all accounts, he's like a really nice guy. He's not going to yell at anybody in a huddle or anything like that. I'll say this. I mean, let's not forget that Draymond Green once stood up in the middle of the locker room and yelled at Steve Kerr, "Motherfucker, sit me down," which resulted in the cops having to get outside the locker room just in case the two killed each other. Like, this is how Draymond operates. Kevin Durant this is not his first rodeo. This is his 3rd year with Draymond. They have had much more intense conversations than that over much bigger existential shit than the end of a November game against the Clippers. And while Draymond might have pushed up,
but that's my thing though. Is this about a November game against the Clippers? Really?
Yes, it is.
You think it is?
Yes, because it's not Draymond. And the implication on the other end of that is Draymond then going, "There's 5 seconds left in the game. Kevin's not going to be around next year. I'm doing this." Like, Draymond.
Yeah.
Draymond is Kevin's number 1 advocate, number 1 critic. He doesn't. Draymond is one of the most vocal people about how he's happy that Kevin is keeping his options open and he's going to get his money. Yeah. Because I mean, to Draymond, he thinks it could be the 5-year supermax that then we're all together, and maybe that's not so much money for Draymond, but that's not important. Like, this is not a thing. This is legitimately not a thing. It will be made out to be one. Draymond might have pushed a button that gets everybody's ears perked up. Kevin has been getting ripped about his free agency thing behind closed doors with the Warriors all season.
Yeah.
Like that, it's how it works. They are constantly ribbing each other. It is the most, if you didn't know any better, if you just dropped in with the Warriors, you would think that they all fucking hated each other with the amount of shit that they talk to each other at all times. But in fact, it's the most like brotherly love thing ever. Like, David West and Andre Iguodala are vicious. Well, West isn't with the team anymore, but like Iguodala is fucking vicious. Draymond is vicious. Even Steph finds his shots. Clay comes out of nowhere, just over the top. It's why young guys have a little bit of a harder time because they expect absolute perfection. They expect you to work to an insane level on the daily, and they are just going to rip you to fucking shreds over nothing. I mean, these guys are, and yet they have a really copacetic, not a lot of waves. This is the biggest wave that they've had in a while. And it's just nothing.
It's not a wave, I guess, is the way to put it.
This is a ripple. And you want to talk about a wave. Jimmy Butler just worked his way out of Minnesota. Look around the league and all of the nonsense that's going on. Draymond Green and Kevin Durant are yelling at each other over the last possession of a game just because they have somewhat ideological differences over how to handle that situation. And the coach just lets him do it. He likes the chaos. Steve likes the chaos. He likes the chaos because it makes the other team have to react, and he has better players. And he likes the chaos because he thinks it forges a little bit of bonded, it bonds the team together a little bit more during a regular season. That doesn't fucking matter.
I hope it does not form.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad I caught myself there. That was rough. I do love this. So immediately everyone with the KD thing is oh, he's going to the Knicks. And it's yes, because that's exactly, I'm sure he would have yelled that at Draymond in that moment. That shit can't go away because you can't disprove a negative.
Sure.
But I do love the Durant's going to the Lakers stuff now on the logic of Kevin Durant doesn't like playing for the Warriors because Draymond Green is too domineering and too much of a personality driver. But yeah, LeBron James.
So he wants to go play with LeBron. Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Look, I'm with you. I think that this is something that is not a big
it will only be brought up again if they lose, which they play the Hawks tonight. So dear God. And listen, they might not have Steph, but Quinn Cook's been playing fine, and they can still demolish a team at will. Kevin's going to come out on one, just be hyper efficient. They're going to pass it off as it's nothing. They would do that regardless of if it was something or nothing. But the only way this is brought up again is if things start coming off the rails, or if they lose in the playoffs, and then finally when Kevin leaves or not this offseason, and everyone will point back to this as this was the moment that it was all over. And it's no, it isn't. This is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. If this is a team's biggest problem when you look around the NBA, that guys are just too fiery and they get at each other a little bit too much in a crunch time situation in November, you got it good. You really do.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This is not a thing.
It's a little bit of a thing.
It's just a thing because the greater thing matters.
It pushes a lot of buttons.
The Kevin Durant thing.
Yeah.
What I would say, the Kevin Durant thing, like you said, it's been there all season. So,
yeah, it's looming, baby.
It's not a new thing. It's not a different thing. It's not really a thing at all. It just
it's an amplified thing now.
Yeah, it just amplified something that is already hanging over the entire organization, and it doesn't change anything, I guess.
No, it's not. It's not as if Draymond Green and Kevin Durant decided yesterday that they hate each other's guts. Give me a break. And when Draymond is listen, if there's actually something up, Draymond tells people.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if there was actually something up, Draymond would fucking be bumping into guys too. And the fact that everyone just sat in their stations and yapped at each other a little bit last night, it's not great that it got out. I'm obviously all for it getting out, but
it got out because it happened on the court, right?
Happened on the court, but I'm talking also in the locker room after. It got out after that. But listen, I know Spears, and Spears is extremely connected. I'm not doubting the report at all in any way, shape, or form. I take it as gospel. I wasn't there. I was at a fucking terrible football game, but that's not a confrontation, not even by Warrior standards. And Warrior standards are incredibly tame in terms of what gets people's ears perked up and not. So I don't think we're going to be talking about this in a week, which is my standard of, is this a thing? Yeah,
I agree with you. I will go as far as to say that I don't think we're talking about this in 2 days.
Interesting. I'll hear it out.
Yeah, I think that the Hawks game, they're going to come and blow the fucking doors off the Hawks.
Yeah.
They're going to talk to Kevin and Draymond after the game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be no, we're cool. We talked about it. It's fine. You know what I mean? So I don't.
Yeah. Which they would say if there even was something bad happening, to be fair, because they're not weird and passive aggressive like that. But I just don't think it's a thing. I really don't. And it's easy to project it as a thing because an actual dysfunctional NBA team, this would be what would be shown externally. This would be the nonsense that indicates that there's dysfunction. But what you have to take into account the baseline of this, which is this is not anything new and that this team is hyper functional. So why are we just presuming that those two things are not true?
All right, let's talk about the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, let's talk about dysfunction. No.
Let's talk about actual problems right now. The Celtics have lost 4 of 5. They've lost all 4 of those games on the road, first and foremost. So, road losses happen, right? That's kind of not a big deal.
Even if you're a team who was supposed to win 60 games this year.
Right, and, all 4 of the losses came to 50-win teams, probably.
Yeah.
They came to the Pacers, the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Trailblazers, all on the road. This shit happens. Right.
It happens. It's not great that it's happening to these guys right now with the questions that are surrounding them, but it happens.
Right. So where are you at with this? Where are we at with Boston at 7-6, heading into, I guess, a relatively important stretch here as we get at least early in the season, as important as the stretch can be. They kind of have to figure some shit out. So what do we think about this team right now heading into the middle of November?
Yeah, I'm obviously a bit disillusioned by them, but I'm not writing them off by any stretch. Certainly concerning to me that they're shooting less than 50% on effective field goal percentage. They are shooting as many open shots as any team in the NBA, and I think knocking down a third of them at most.
So, that stuff's going to regress.
That stuff is going to regress and jump back up to a certain mean. At the same time, when you watch them, they look constipated on offense. They haven't figured out a flow. I would like to see them actually kind of push the pace a little bit more. I know Stevens is a bit reluctant to do that because it hurts his team's defense. But let's just take into account the baseline metrics here. I'd argue that they have the best defense in the NBA. We can have a conversation about that, but they are in the hyper elite in that in that category across the NBA. So they're going to stop other teams from scoring. And they can't score right now, but they're getting a lot of open looks. And I think we can all say that they have some pretty damn good shooters on that team. And Tatum is starting to come around a little bit. I think Jalen's game has been steady and has obviously a lot of upside. Kyrie turned in a clunker the other night, but
I'm still pretty worried about Tatum, right?
No, don't get me wrong. I think Tatum is – I think that there's a couple of guys on this team who are trying to individually take the Celtics to the next level when what they should be doing is just staying in their roles and marginally progressing. And instead, you got a lot of guys pressing at the same time.
So the thing that worries me with Tatum is what people have talked about with him all year, right? The propensity for him to step in and take these long twos.
Yep.
Right now, he, according to Cleaning the Glass, I think I saw this earlier.
Yeah.
He is taking a higher percentage of his shots from the long two range than any high usage player in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And he's shooting 27 or 28%. That will regress, but
he can't be taking those shots. It's not an efficient
shot. Yeah, this is stuff that you have to cut that shit out of your game. This is what made you so effective last year, is that you did cut that shit out of your game. It's something that you did in high school, and it's why you went third in the draft, and some people had you lower in the draft, because you just did this constantly. You constantly decided to get into that 18-foot range and shoot shots that are just as efficient as three-pointers, but not mathematically as valuable. Stop doing this shit, Jason Tatum. It's driving me crazy.
Come on, man. You got to cut the kid some slack. He's young. He's in his second year. He turned in a performance that...
But he just did it last year. That's the thing.
It's a different environment. Let's be honest, though. That's a different environment for him. He wasn't expected to be the dude. It was Kyrie's team. It was a young team coming together.
Is he still the dude? Is he the dude now?
Well,
they have Kyrie. They have Al Horford. They have vets.
Game 7 of last year's Eastern Conference Finals, and both of us, we cannot pretend that we're not in on this bullshit. We just immediately ascended him into a different level.
Oh yeah.
You look at the stuff. You look at the stuff that he did in the regular season, the game that he played in the regular season. He was asked to do a little bit something different in the playoffs, and he performed. He was outstanding. He looked like one of the second best player on the court for a series with LeBron. He was going toe to toe with one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. That's going to do something to your head a little bit.
Nobody doubts the talent, though.
His game has not matched the talent yet, and he is forcing it a little bit. he is trying to be the dude, and it's like it's going to take a little bit longer than maybe you want. He got to be a little more patient with it because we're not back in Game 7 when you were on a hot streak. Like, we're not back in that series. You have to stay within your game. You have to just take it a step or two beyond what you did in last year's regular season, not last year's playoffs. Because last year's playoffs, as great as they were, it was kind of an abnormality. You can't expect that stuff to extrapolate out over an 82-game regular season. And when he gets the ball, it just looks like he spent a lot of time with Kobe Bryant this past offseason learning how to dominate.
Yeah, I don't know how much I believe in that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, how much do I believe in like the Kobe rubbed off on him stuff? Like,
I'm not saying that
always been a part of the game.
I'm not saying that it rubbed off on him too much, but you get an entire offseason of dudes like you and I just telling him that he's the man and that he's going to be in the MVP conversation next year and stuff like that. And that this is, it's Jason Tatum's team now. You can't imagine, even if you're taking it from the most benevolent mindset, if you put yourself in Jason Tatum's shoes and all you just take it from the sense, oh man, that's a lot of pressure. Like that, this is what everyone's saying about me. I got to make sure that they're right because I know I can be that guy someday. I didn't know it would be today. Even if you view it from that mindset, it's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there and you're going to try to prove everybody right in that sense. And right now, this is kind of what you get. I'm a little bit shocked at Brad Stevens' coaching with this team, to be honest. I thought that he would be able to kind of get them on the right tracks earlier in the season.
I don't want to say it's a lot of new pieces because obviously they brought everyone back. They basically ran back from last season. But the addition of Gordon Hayward is very different. It does completely change what they do because Hayward does really like to run these side pick and rolls. He really does like to run a lot of offense through him. And they're not necessarily doing it a crazy amount, but like it also changes the way their defense runs because, for instance, last year they started a ton of games with like Aaron Baines and Al Horford. That was basically their default starting lineup. Yep. And in large part, what that did was it shored up a pretty significant weakness for them. It shored up the defensive rebounding. This year, their defensive rebounding has largely been pretty okay. I think that they're like in the top 12 or something like that in defensive rebounding. So, like, it's just that's not necessarily the concern. It's just the way that this whole thing operates changes in a lot of ways.
Right.
It just becomes something totally new, and I think that's why we're seeing this kind of slow start more than anything. By the way, like the defense over the last 5 games has been atrocious. They're like in the bottom 5 in the NBA in defense over the last 5 years.
But,
it's a 5-game run against good teams, of course. But, like,
they still have the lowest defensive rating in the NBA by almost an entire point.
Right. But, like, with Boston, you really don't really expect these, like, long-term 5-game runs. I mean, long-term in 5 games is, like, kind of a ridiculous statement. But, like, over the course of 5 games, you don't really expect such terrible runs from them.
I agree with you on the Hayward point, and it's just difficult to integrate him onto this team. And I think that the person who's being hurt by that the most is Tatum, because a lot of the stuff that they are doing for Hayward now is stuff that they did for Tatum in last year's playoffs. And it's just a different role, and it's a different expectation externally. And I'd be a little frustrated. I mean, this is a situation that can.
Well, and they're like last year, Tatum was asked to like kind of just space the floor, right, and then attack closeouts when he had the opportunity.
Yeah, that
is basically what Gordon's like role is right now. Like Gordon is being asked to space the floor, run the occasional side pick and roll, and then attack closeouts when he gets the opportunity.
If I see Gordon Hayward look like he's 100% at some point this season, and this shit's still happening, and the Celtics can't seem to figure out how to get him and Tatum and Jalen and Horford and Kyrie all working together, which is should be their best 5-man lineup. If all of that is happening, and there's a couple of games where it's just not clicking, then we can start having a legitimate conversation about worrying about this team if these pieces don't actually fit together in a positive sense. But until then, it's frustrating. Because again, you expect you have a good coach, you have good players. What could go wrong? But there's just something. One of the gears is sticking in this machine, and it's kind of holding everything back offensively, and that's going to rub off on the defense a little bit.
Is it weird to you that Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford have a 91.4 offensive rating?
Yeah, it's extremely weird. Well, Yes and no. I mean, they've never exactly been a juggernaut.
That is
terrible. It's terrible.
Bad offensive rating.
No, I'm not. Yeah, like like if you were to have told me 102, which isn't a good offensive rating for a lineup of that caliber, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right with these guys. Let's just think about what we have on this team. I mean, Kyrie is a shoot first at his core point guard. I just haven't seen the 5-out Kyrie dribble penetration play that I thought I would see.
Yeah,
I'm not seeing
expected from them.
Like that was what they were supposed to do, and instead I see the personnel that in theory should be able to do that, but they're not doing it. And then honestly, the times that they're best is when like Baines is spacing the floor, and I don't know, it's rough, but they deserve the benefit of the doubt, and we are very early on in the season.
Oh, yeah, like there's no reason to consider writing this group off, right?
Feel free, I'll buy your stock.
Yeah.
If you want to sell it, go ahead.
Nobody's sitting here saying the Boston's not going to be there at the end. I would expect them to be. But this is a rough stretch right now. Like this is a problem that they need to work through. It's telling to me that a lot of their best offensive lineups right now feature Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart.
The Smart thing's weird. The Morris thing isn't. If
you replace Gordon Hayward with Marcus Morris in that starting lineup, the offensive rating shoots up to 113.7. They've only played 35 minutes together, so like super small sample. Weird shit happens making shots over like samples that small. But he is like kind of the shot maker that group needs. Like they don't really have, and this is something we mentioned on the last podcast whenever we talked about like the Terry Rozier thing. They don't really have like a true catch and shoot guy. Like everyone,
Tatum kind of played that last year in the regular
season. That's exactly right. He played that role last year, but obviously he's not doing that this year.
I've always thought that Jalen could be that guy too.
But again, like he's a lot more comfortable cutting back door and driving and doing things with the ball in his hand. So like that's the thing to me. This team doesn't really have like the low usage, I'm just going to catch it and shoot it guy.
Right.
Al Horford is kind of that, but like he's still a 6'10" center, right? Like he's not going to be the elite shooter that you need. So like
it's not as if Al Horford's beating anyone off the dribble. He has no choice but to be a catch and shoot guy.
Right. And like honestly, he has a pretty good pump fake. Like he can get into the lane like and make like if he's going pick and roll or dribble handoff, he can go short roll and
you're not going to get any Al Horford blasphemy out of me. Yeah, no, he's an excellent offensive player as well as arguably the best defensive center in the NBA. But this just seems like a team that might have accelerated a bit too fast at the end of last year. The process of kind of building them up just kind of got out of hand because at some point Brad Stevens is going to have to declare who the team runs around, right? And when you have Tatum and then you have a lot of actions for Hayward and Kyrie, those things can kind of fight each other a little bit. And it's not as if there's a big existential crisis happening, but it would be nice to just see a game where it's like, okay, this is a Kyrie game or a game where it's just like, we're just going to run nothing but actions for Hayward and we're going to get this MFer going. Like, or for Tatum. But like right now, they seem to be picking and choosing every time they come down the floor and they can't get into a rhythm and confidence just seems to waver and they're really just relying on their defense to win games. So if they're not playing well on that end, they're kind of shot to shit.
Right. And here's the other thing. Like, I'm not saying that Boston is a bad shooting team when I talk about this. Like,
but they're not an elite shooting team.
Option. But yeah, they're like shooting 36% from three. I think that's about their true talent level. That's middle of the pack in the NBA. And whenever you're running, though, like a 5-out offense like this, you should have guys like that that can be like knockdown shooters. The other thing here is the defense. The defense just hasn't played well over the course of this 5-game stretch. And guys have, like, really gotten off against them. Like, in this stretch is the Jamal Murray game. Devin Booker caught them, which, like, by the way, the only win in this 5-game stretch is that Phoenix Suns game where they had to come back from, like, 20 points down in the fourth quarter.
I watched most of that game. That game was garbage.
It was a bad game, but it was, like, a fun game, but it was a really bad game, especially for Boston. So, like, I don't really know what to do with them right now. Like they have some things that they need to figure out here going forward.
Neither does Brad Stevens, from what we can tell.
Yeah, like I don't even know that. Like, obviously, I don't blame Brad for this, but like
no.
Joe Ingles caught them for 27, if I remember correctly. Like guys have really, I think Victor Oladipo hit them pretty good. Like guys are getting off against this backcourt with not ease, but like with relative, regularity, I guess. So that's something where I think they need to.
Surprising, we can consider the personnel.
No, but like they're mobile, they're strong, they're athletic, and they've obviously been the best defense in the NBA for now 3 years, basically, since Brad's been there. So like, look, it's not something you expect, but they need to like kind of shut that shit down,
For sure. And, I don't know when the kind of panic point is for this team, but I don't think we're approaching
until like January. I don't think. Like,
let's get to Christmas when everyone will start, when the masses start paying attention to the NBA before we start freaking out, eh?
Yeah. If they're 500 in January, then we'll start worrying. But like they have questions they need to figure out, but they're not like worries that like will.
They're worries, but this is not something where they need to make a trade or they need to massively shake it up. Right. I mean, there is not a deep down crisis here. It's just friction.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That shit happens. I presume they're going to be fine until I start to see something really, really bad. And now,
until they take Kyrie Irving's advice and sign a 14 or 15-year-old veteran.
15-year-old veteran?
Or 15-year veteran. Yeah.
Jason Tatum's not that much older.
He's not. That's true. But yeah, Kyrie wants him to sign a 14 and 15-year veteran. Which, speaking of Carmelo Anthony, we should probably talk about Melo.
In theory, catch and shoot guy.
Shout out M-Grads for breaking the Carmelo Anthony news that like apparently he's played his last game with the Houston Rockets. I don't know. I mean, Melo's just kind of honestly like he's just kind of irrelevant. I don't really have like strong takes on this. Like I think he's a Hall of Famer. I love it. I loved him for many years.
I was never personally a Melo guy, but like people shitting all over what was unquestionably a really excellent career, just because he made a misguided decision. I don't know. I get in trouble with stuff like this. Just because he took the money in New York to play for a bad team and then kind of torpedoed a couple other teams after that to a certain degree, which I don't know. Maybe the only places that would take in a guy like Carmelo Anthony were ripe for said scenarios, but like the guy was really, really good. The entire NBA changed under his feet, and he was then asked to turn into a role player, and that's kind of hard to do when you're Carmelo effing Anthony.
Which, like, by the way, like he went home, like he was born in Brooklyn. I mean,
yeah,
are we really gonna like?
He really enjoyed playing in New York.
Yeah, like he loved playing in New York. Are we really gonna sit here and like shit on a guy for playing where he was born? Like I know that like he kind of has the New York vibe and the DMV side of it as well because he played. Where did he play? He played at like Towson Catholic, and then
he's West Baltimore.
Maybe Oak Hill, right?
Yeah,
he was both of them. So like, look, I get it that he's in kind of both worlds there, and I also just get being somewhere that you want to be, being in a big city that you were born in. Like he was the Knicks for 4 or 5 years. It's kind of cool to be the guy. Like we might see Kevin Durant do it at some point this offseason.
Maybe sooner rather than later. No. Don't forget that like there were pretty decent stretches with the Knicks. Like they made the playoffs. Right. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs in those counted up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They haven't made it in 5 years. 6 years, Jesus Christ! But
and like you run.
They won 3 straight years. I mean, with him,
I mean, like 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA. Was obviously the Syracuse, one and done who led them to a national.
And arguably the greatest NCAA tournament I've ever seen.
Right, and like you can go up and down the list. I mean, he's what is he on the scoring list? He's got to be like in the top 30, right? Top 25. Yeah.
No, he's a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. Mainly because the Basketball Hall of Fame is like, oh, you played? Come on in. But like he's a no-brainer in that regard. Like we talk about Dwight Howard as a possible Hall of Famer. Like Carmelo Anthony. Also,
by the way, like Dwight Howard, no-brainer Hall of Fame.
Okay, so by that standard, Carmelo Anthony should get his own wing. So like I feel bad to a certain degree because I do think that this. And I'm the first person to shit all over because I do think it's hilarious in some weird negative way. This is my mind. But like he can't play like a defense. His game doesn't really translate unless he wants to pare it down to a kind of extreme level, which is difficult for him to do if you still think that you can be the dude. I think he should just go to China and become a god. Like I really feel like that would be awesome for him.
That'd be amazing. If he wants to go to China, go to China. That'd be great.
Or just don't do anything. He's made
that's what I was
hundreds of millions of dollars. You can just hang out and like drink wine and like make fun of Chris Paul all the day.
Go live in Miami and fuck with Dwayne Wade. Like
that'd be fantastic. That sounds like a life I could get behind.
Yeah, like go to Houston, like stay living in Houston and hang out with your buddy Chris Paul. Like go.
I don't know so much about that. Yeah,
you can go with LeBron and hang out with LeBron. Like
you can afford houses in all three places and just live there whenever you want and fly private jets around.
You have private planes. Like go hang out when you want to hang out. Like just
maybe you'll live in Paris for a while.
Just like have fun with your kids. Have fun with your buddies. Go. Just you've done enough now, Melo. Like you
hang out with Kevin Durant in New York. I mean,
yeah, maybe you want to keep like doing what you're doing now. Maybe
I get it. I
just want to keep playing basketball, but
we're 0 for 2 on this sort of I just want to keep playing basketball and I don't need any money thing. Like either get some money or don't subject yourself to this legacy tainting nonsense. Because I do agree with this sentiment. I'm happy it popped up. If people honestly think that Melo is the main Rockets problem, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. He is part of the problem. Don't get me wrong.
But he's like
he's terrible
on the list of problems. Like maybe fifth, and that might even be too high.
He's equivalent to like what the hell is like he's a role player that's not playing a good role right now. He's equivalent to Michael Carter Williams on the list of Rockets problems. Like he's not a positive, but come on, give me a break.
Their defense is a problem. Them trying to figure out how to play without Trevor Ariza and how to play without Luka Mbamute and how to play with all of these new guys, that's a bigger problem. Like the way that James Harden is playing right now and not being like sneakily, James Harden has not been nearly what James Harden was last year. So like that is
sneaky. That's just a straight up.
But like nobody's talking about that, I feel like.
Because Chris Paul is a lot easier to make fun of.
It's probably true.
And because James Harden's kind of always had an expiration date, it has felt like kind of the Roman candle of basketball players.
Like, it's not like he's expired.
No,
like,
but you can only shine so bright for so long.
Right, but like he won MVP last year. So,
yeah, they should have won it the year before that.
Right. So like he's been unbelievable and like he's not been up to like he's been like a top
still an all-star.
Yeah, like he's been like a top 15 player this year, not like a top 2 player this year.
Well, when you think about the trajectory of James Harden's career, like he was never expected to be a top 15 player. Top 50, sure. Top 30, maybe. But like to go to top 15 and then just suddenly be the rightful winner of back-to-back MVPs and be in the conversation for 3 straight years in like the short list, like maybe we've seen the absolute best of James Harden, which doesn't mean that he's now turned to shit, but like, you know, there's certain peaks and valleys and maybe we're on the other end of the bell curve here.
Yeah.
Maybe, or maybe not. Maybe he's just playing his way into shape and he had a hamstring injury and, you know,
very possible.
And it's kind of hard to come back from such a devastating loss at the end of last year and just be like, yeah, let's go do it, guys. 82 games. Like,
yeah. And again, like, look, we're not like shitting on James Harden's performance. Like he's still
been absolutely fine. He's just not been as good.
Like he's still really good.
Just not been as efficient. His defense is not as engaged. He's been injured. Chris Paul, the same stuff. I mean, he hasn't played every game. He
James Harden turning the ball over 5.5 times a game now.
Right.
Like
listen, there's a lot more reason to panic about the Rockets than there is about the Celtics because the metrics, even though we went through a couple of metrics that don't look great for the Celtics, like, again, the Celtics have one of the best defenses in the NBA, or at least until the last 5 games we thought they did. They are getting open shots at a very high rate across the league. They have young players and they have some complicating circumstances. The Rockets certainly have complicating circumstances, but they don't really have the young players. They have a major emotional letdown from last year, and their defense is really, really bad. There's no metric that you can point at and be like, oh, the Rockets are going to figure this out soon. Like they're going to progress.
Do you know what the craziest thing is?
What do you got?
Their defense is actually ahead of their offense right now in ratings.
Right. Like this is where we are at. This is not good. And
they're figuring some things out, by the way.
They're winning some games. They're winning some, but and Clint Capella looked really good the other night. But they certainly don't look like the second best team in the Western Conference and, you know, kind of a true title contender by any stretch of the imagination. They will, this is perhaps a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy of they were going to probably take her easy through the regular season. Now they're probably going to have to fight a little bit once the new year rolls around just for a playoff spot. They're in position now, but with the amount of teams out there that are going to be around 500 in the Western Conference, meaning pretty much everyone but the Warriors, if it shapes out the way I think it will shape out, they're going to have to scrap. I mean, they're half a game up on the Mavericks, and 3 games up on the Suns. They have a worse record than the Lakers. Like, there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for spots 2 through 8 in the Western Conference. So the Rockets are assured of nothing. Yeah,
like the Rockets just aren't good enough talent-wise to coast.
Right, but they have
great players, but like they can't coast to a top 4 seed in the West.
By the way, Draymond Green is sitting out tonight's game against the Hawks.
Of course he is.
He has a foot injury and it's a back-to-back, but of course he is.
Like, it's just going to keep compounding upon itself. It's just going to keep.
Oh, thank goodness.
Feeding itself, because that's the way that the narrative goes in this.
I do love a good narrative. This is a sad narrative, though, because we lost Caris LeVert last night.
Yeah, so, like, it immediately, like, incredibly somber, like, problematic thing. And then, like, this morning, everyone was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of okay. Like, this could have been worse.
Absolutely could have been worse. First off, nobody does RIP Twitter better than NBA Twitter. Just immediately, it's everyone's favorite son, even people who've never heard of Caris LeVert because they only watch ESPN games. Like, just immediately, the outpouring of sympathy and emotion. It's really incredible.
Here is what I'll say about that. Like, part of that is that Caris LeVert is genuinely like one of the greatest dudes that. Like,
oh yeah, no, I'm not saying that Caris LeVert doesn't deserve it. I'm saying everyone deserves it. I always find it interesting how fast people are reaching to their phones to. Yeah,
you would have thought Caris LeVert was dead. Like,
yeah, pretty much,
and that like his career was over. So Caris LeVert goes down, right leg injury, and it is a dislocated right ankle. Like where the ankle meets the foot, I guess.
Just slid off.
Yeah. John Gavoni tweeted earlier today that, like, he's gone through Roto World's, like, list of injuries in the past.
Yeah.
And, like, they have literally never seen this.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, right? Because immediately you see him come down and you think of the Paul George injury.
Yeah, everyone thought it was a broken leg or, like, broken ankle. Like,
or even last year with Gordon Hayward.
Right.
Dislocated is like, okay, so all the tendons and stuff just kind of fall. Like, I don't know how that works.
I don't know
I can't jump that high.
Either.
I don't know. I can't jump that high, so I can't even pretend to understand the force that might come down on your ankle if you land on it funny. But, like, I guess it's just the most supremely rolled ankle in the history of mankind.
Yeah, but, like, I don't understand, just, like, in terms of body mechanics, how you can dislocate your ankle in the way that he did, like where it literally looked like it was just like hanging there.
Does he wear low-top shoes?
And I don't know about that. But, like, how do you get no ligament and tendon damage? Like, that's what's crazy to me. It's incredibly lucky. And, like, look, Caris LeVert deserves all sort of luck. This is a guy that...
He hasn't had a lot of it up until this point, if we're being honest.
Yeah, like at Michigan, after his sophomore year, he was considered like a legit potential lottery pick in the future. And then he gets a foot stress fracture in his left foot. He has like another fracture in his foot after that. Eventually has surgery to clean it up. And when the Nets took him, like there were teams that had him completely off their draft board because they just didn't trust the fact that his feet would stay healthy. This doesn't really have anything to do with that as far as I can tell. Like, I'm not going to, again, sit here and say that I'm a doctor.
Just a freak injury.
Body mechanics and say, like, he might be more, like, prone to stuff like this happening because of the way that his body is made. I don't know. But, like, this would seem to have nothing to do with that. And it's an incredible bummer that it's happening right now where he has been so good to start the year. I do think that, like, some people have overestimated a little bit how good he's been. Like, some people are saying, like, he's making a legit, like, superstar turn. He's like,
no, he was an all-star. He was probably an all-star this year.
I don't even think he was that. Like,
fringe all-star, Eastern Conference. We went over this in the regular season.
He's averaging like 18 points, 4 and 4 on like 31% from three, and
he has a full win share this year. Sam,
he's been good. Like, he's been really good, and he's established himself as like a certain NBA starter.
Well, he went from 8 points to 12 points to to 18 points, and he's 24 years old, and he plays for a team that's eminently enjoyable to watch. He shoots, what is his effective field goal? He's a 52% effective field goal guy. He's a really, really good player, and
really good young player.
A cornerstone of a team that needed a cornerstone.
Right. But, like, if Caris LeVert's your cornerstone, you're in trouble.
A cornerstone, a singular cornerstone of many. You need 4 of them to make a full building.
Sure. That's reasonable. I'm here for that. I'm here for that take.
I don't think he plays again this year, even though this injury, they avoided the worst because, again, the Nets have their draft pick this year.
My guess is that he does, given how strongly, so the guy who did the diagnosis, Martin O'Malley, he is one of the best, I believe he's an orthopedic surgeon. He's one of the best in the entire country.
Do you have an orthopedic surgeon power rankings?
I don't, but I can tell you that, literally...
Number 1 on the list, Dr. James Andrews.
Literally any NBA player that has, ever had lower body injuries has gone to Martin O'Malley. And, or at least in terms of, orthopedic stuff. I guess, torn ACLs aren't really that necessarily, right? So, guys that have, weird, freaky stuff, they tend to go to him. And
Martin O'Malley, the former Democratic presidential campaign?
That is Martin. Who the hell is that?
It's also Martin O'Malley.
Is it? So, this guy, though, is the guy who originally did the surgery on Caris LeVert's foot in 2016.
Yeah.
2015, 2016, something like that. And he came out very strongly saying that Caris will play again this year. That makes me think that,
I don't think that he can't. I'm just saying that I don't think he will. And that has nothing to do with the injury.
It makes me think that they're going to make a point to play him again this year because he was, the bright spot on a Brooklyn team that they were finally building up something exciting.
Okay. I can be on it. I would love to see him play again this year. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's been really good. He's an awesome player in a ball screen. He is very versatile. He is it's not a super explosive game, but he used to be really, really skinny, and he's actually filled out his body now. He can take contact. He can really put guys in jail on his hip and then shoot floaters. From the mid-range, he's a better shooter than 31% from 3, in my opinion. He does take some contested shots.
There are a lot of plays in the fourth quarter where they just give him the ball and let him do whatever the hell he wants, and that's not his game. He is not of that level. So anyone thinking he took a superstar turn is
he can create, but he's a secondary creator, not a primary guy, and that's super valuable. He is a good basketball player. No one is I don't mean to throw fucking water on the Caris LeVert thing on the day after he got hurt. He's a really good player, and it's awesome that he's established himself as a very terrific piece to build around as a part of for Brooklyn. He is a long-term starter there for sure, but he's on a good team. He's what, the 5th starter, 4th starter?
Third. I think he'd be a third.
You think third? Maybe. I could see that, but is he better? He's probably slightly better than Spencer Dinwiddie right now.
I don't know. Spencer Dinwiddie doesn't have the same force on a game.
For sure. Caris is better than Spencer.
I mean, we can break down the Nets all day, baby. That's the team I probably watch second most.
They're super fun.
There's a lot of reasons they have to decide what to do with Dinwiddie, but and I am not a D'Angelo Russell guy, but you look at...
But you know what? This is going to give them ample opportunity to evaluate D'Angelo and decide what they're going to do with him this summer.
I feel like they've had ample opportunity to this juncture and that they should have made a decision by now. But
9 threes last night, baby.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ.
We're not giving up on D'Angelo.
I am. Have already. It's happened. LeVert was a very solid recruiting tool for free agents to come to Brooklyn this summer. I think he is because you can see positivity there. It's not a total doldrum. You don't have to take on the total load. He's a solid player.
He's not as good as Tobias Harris.
No, but you're not going to get Tobias Harris blasphemy on me. I love Tobias Harris.
Right, but is Tobias Harris a recruiting tool in free agency? You know what I mean?
Would you rather? I mean, listen, I'm not saying that.
And again, I love Tobias.
Caris LeVert last year.
Tobias,
I think that the Clippers have a very good thing, but shit, man. If you were, there's a reason that the Nets haven't been in free agency conversations for the past 4 years, and it's a lot of them. But one of them is who the hell am I going to play with? Well, Caris LeVert's a player you can play with. He is very well respected around NBA player circles. I can tell you that. And a lot of guys around the league. I know Durant in particular thinks the world of him. And so it's I'm not saying that, Durant's going to Brooklyn or anything, but when Kevin Durant is talking you up apropos of nothing, I don't think Durant is the only one. This is just my circle. I don't think Durant is the only one who really likes Caris LeVert. and thinks like, oh, I would like to play with Caris LeVert. Now, would I rather play with Tobias Harris, or would I rather play with LeBron James, or whatever?
Like, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like,
I totally agree.
I think everyone has one of these guys. Like,
well, the Nets didn't for a very long time.
Kristaps, right? Like, he's not like no one is like selling Caris versus Kristaps. No one is selling Caris versus. I'm trying to think of. No one's selling Caris versus Luka Doncic if someone wants to go to Dallas, or Devin Booker if someone wants to go to Phoenix. You know?
Yeah. No, it's right. It's but they didn't have that guy for a long time, and Caris LeVert became that guy, and damned if I'm not going to stand for him a little bit.
I'm happy to stand for him. Like, I want him to succeed.
You won't stand for him as much as I will. I won't
stand for him as much as you will. That's true. Like, he's good. He's a good player. And I'm glad that he's established himself as a good player. And I'm glad that this whole thing is just hopefully going to be a blip.
Absolutely. That is the hope for all of them.
Yeah. So, all right.
Sucks because I did enjoy watching the Nets this year, and now they might just plummet down the league pass scenario.
Do you know who is going to be extremely valuable going forward for the Brooklyn Nets?
DeMar Carroll.
D'Angelo Russell. We talked about this.
No, I know. Sorry. I couldn't possibly get my mind to comprehend such a notion.
D'Angelo's a stud, baby. Let's be real about it. And you know where else D'Angelo's going to be a stud? DraftKings.
No,
basketball season is finally back, and you know
don't listen to Sam.
It's time to put your basketball knowledge to the test with one-day fantasy basketball at DraftKings. DraftKings is giving away over $400 million in prizes this season. No matter what your skill level is, there's a contest waiting for you at DraftKings. Drafting your team is simple. Just select 8 players, make one of them D'Angelo Russell, and stay under that $50,000 salary cap. Earn points when your players score, assist, block, rebound, and more. And the best part is that you get to draft a new team every day without any commitment. Download the app over at DraftKings.com or head over to DraftKings.com now and use my code THEORY, that's THEORY, to support the show and play free with your first deposit. And remember, there will be $400 million in total prizes up for grabs throughout the season. That's code THEORY, THEORY, to play for free with your first deposit only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. I was just trying to segue and move into D'Angelo Russell in the ad. And, you know, your hatred of my man D'Angelo is just too strong.
It ain't hatred. I'm just out. And I've been out for a while, and he hasn't brought me back in. He's given me no reason to come back in. I'll just call it like I see it. I just don't like the guy.
Don't like his game.
Don't like his game. Not sold on the person.
Just not here for it. Okay.
That's fine. Listen, I have been wrong before many times.
You know who I am here for? I am here for Karl Anthony Towns dropping a fuck you game after Jimmy Butler gets traded. 25 points, 21 rebounds the night after Jimmy Butler gets traded.
I have a legitimate question for you. Would it have been better if Karl Towns turned in a shitty performance the day after Towns got traded?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
The main narrative was that Jimmy was so deep into Karl's head that like they had to do something because Karl was never going to perform again so long as Jimmy was around. And what does he do? The second Jimmy gets traded is he goes off. He looks like Karl Towns again.
Yeah, like everyone who was out on Karl Towns to me is
that's stupid. That's stupid.
Karl Towns is so good.
Yes, like Karl Towns could be a generational player if he could learn to play some damn defense.
Yes, like there are real concerns with Karl Towns, but in terms of what he can do on the floor offensively, he is a superstar offensive talent.
Unreal. Who goes for 20-20 anymore? Like, no one does that shit.
Yeah, Andre Drummond's done it a few times this year, but like Andre doesn't do it in the same way.
No, it is not as impactful by any stretch. It's not a focal point of an offense. Towns also did it on 81% shooting without going to the line a bunch. 19 defensive rebounds. He had 10 turnovers in the game, but we're going to just ignore that for the sake of narrative.
Oh, we are 100% ignoring the fact that Karl Towns dropped a turnover triple-double. Like, we are not talking about that. He was a positive overall in the game, despite the fact that he had 10 turnovers, and that is an extremely difficult thing to do. Let's just talk about where the Wolves go from here. Andrew Wiggins only had 13 in that game, but Derrick Rose continued the Derrick Rose-assance.
That's a thing.
That is a thing.
Don't have to feel good about it, but it is.
I don't feel great about, like, whatever. 23 points and 6 assists. At the very least, someone is going to trade for Derrick Rose at some point.
That would be a positive for the Wolves. I mean, maybe they can get Wiggins into that deal too.
The funniest thing in the world is going to be when Tibbs decides to not move Derrick Rose at the trade deadline.
You're so right that that's going to happen.
It's 100% going to happen.
Like they can move him. They can free Taj and give Taj Gibson.
They're not freeing Taj either. Do you think Tibbs is getting rid of Taj?
I'll tell you this. I bet Luol Deng plays some minutes this year.
Oh, my God. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time.
Listen, the Wolves were not good last night. I believe that is the clinical term for what happened.
And look, they got, I don't want to say lucky.
Oh, my God. There were only 10,000 people at the game there?
Oh, yeah. It's bad. It's bad.
Holy shit. I knew it was bad, but 10,000 bad. That's the counted attendance?
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Holy shit.
I don't want to sit here and say that Minnesota got lucky that, Caris LeVert got hurt, but, it very clearly put a damper on...
Caris LeVert had 10 points in 16 minutes. He was playing. He was doing something.
Right. He was legitimately very, very good.
When you go from Caris LeVert to Rondé Hollis Jefferson and Jared Dudley, you're going to lose something.
Yeah, no question. So,
where are the Wolves in your eyes? I mean, are they? Listen, I didn't like the Covington trade in terms of. I don't think that was even close to good value, but they decided they had to do something, and Tibbs still calls the shots there. So Robert Covington was the guy that they got back. I can see some upside in Saric. Absolutely. I mean, he's young and pretty good player. Where do you see this Wolves team? Do you think that those guys actually help this team in any way? Can they get back into this damn thing now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that. Define get back into it. I don't think they're going to be.
Can they go for the 8? Well, that's it. I mean, isn't that the goal?
I mean,
or are they just writing that off now? Do they get an entire season off?
No. They're not writing it off.
Okay. Well, listen.
I think
after Tibbs' comments, hard to say.
Yeah. Well, no, they're definitely not. He wants to save his job. No question. How he's going to save his job after what Shams Charania and John Krasinski reported over at that lovely, beautiful, terrific website, theathletic.com. What a great website. I don't know how he keeps his job. I really don't. I
don't know how he's kept his job to this point. So clearly he's got something.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm very unclear on it.
I was stunned that they traded Butler before they fired Tibbs. Stunned. I mean, that was a bold prediction. I'm like, this shouldn't be bold. This should be a really straightforward thing where it's Tibbs is the one holding this up. This entire team is being torpedoed by this situation. Get rid of the dude that you're going to fire at the end of the season anyway. But here we are. You're not going to trade Rose. You're not going to trade Gibson. I don't think anyone's coming for Wiggins.
So what, you move Jeff Teague?
I don't. Can you?
Probably.
I mean, yeah, you can get somebody to give you something for Jeff Teague, but you're taking the same sort of cents on the dollar scenario that you had for Jimmy.
Which
one is that? A second round pick? Do you get another second round pick?
I don't hate the Jimmy trade for Minnesota because I think that both Dario and Robert are starters.
Yeah. No, I get that.
But here's the thing, though. So your starters right now are Karl Towns, Taj Gibson, and Andrew Wiggins.
Oh,
which one of those guys leaves the starting lineup? Because he's not taking Taj out of the starting lineup. We feel pretty good about that, right? He's not saying, Taj, you're out of the lineup for these new guys who are coming in. But Robert Covington is unquestionably better than Taj now. Dario, I think, is unquestionably better than Taj now.
Agreed.
So, I mean, what breaks here? What gives? We're going to have the eternal question that 76ers fans have argued about for the last 2 years, that Robert Covington is better than Andrew Wiggins. We're going to find out real quick here whether or not
I don't know if playing time. I don't know if playing time is going to be an equivalent there. I mean,
we're going to have a direct comparison.
I suppose. I mean, who knows what kind of lineups Covington's going to have to play with?
It's going to be bizarre. They really
Anthony Tolliver is better than Taj in some ways.
They really do need to move Taj, and I don't think it's going to happen.
I hate this team. They're so dysfunctional. They're not even fun dysfunctional now.
It really did. This deal really did add to the mess right now. They can get out of it by moving some of the older guys. You move Taj. He's not going to be here when this team is really good.
Move Rose. Get something for Rose.
Yeah.
Try to get off of Wiggins. I mean, or not.
Even if you think Andrew is a guy. Well, yeah, most people are out on Wiggins, but it's clear that I think they aren't out on Wiggins. So even if you think Andrew is your number 2 going forward, sure, keep him, but move the vets, move Taj, move Derek, move Jeff, Like, start allowing Tyus Jones a chance to, like, take this job long-term and run with it.
Absolutely.
Like, Tyus Jones is up for a contract this summer, and
I have no idea what he is.
Like, I think he's good. Like, I think he's legit good, but he's their third-string point guard right now who's playing 12 minutes a night because Derrick Rose is, like, doing things again for some strange reason.
And I guess he'll continue to get the opportunity to do things.
Yeah, like, and look, like Derrick Rose, I'm not sitting here and saying he doesn't deserve the opportunity. He's taken it and run with it. So he should be playing. Yeah. But, like, it does complicate things for Minnesota right now in terms of their long-term development strategy.
What? There's no strategy here. Like, that's the irony. There's no strategy. Their entire strategy was to go all in on Jimmy Butler, and then Jimmy Butler took a dump in the middle of the deck and jumped off the ship. Like, there's no strategy here. They're going to have a new coach next year, a new GM next year. The only thing that you can say for sure is going to be on this team is Karl Anthony Towns. And even then, we should have an adult conversation about maybe if you're going to no, you keep Towns. Like, you can't possibly get remotely. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, if you're rebuilding from scratch, like, okay, you got 5 years Karl Anthony Towns. When's the next time you guys can make the playoffs with him? I don't know, but like, you're not getting any player better than him in the draft or anything like that. They're not tanking, so they're not going to get Zion or RJ or anybody like that. And after the top couple of guys in this draft, I'm not inspired. Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I like the top four. The draft is getting, like, I'm getting a little bit more excited about it. Not a lot. Like, I think that we're filling out the lottery a little bit at least, which is nice.
Most years, don't you kind of have that locked in, like, before the season starts?
Yeah, like last year, I think I had, like, 12 of the 14 that ended up in the lottery in the top 15. So, yeah. Like,
and you knew that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bizarre year, no question.
And it's not because it's so deep.
No, it's not. It's because guys need to, like, rise up and prove themselves. It's going to be a year, too, where, like, there's a wide variance of draft opinion around, like, a lot of guys, I think.
Great year to rebuild.
Great year to rebuild. And Minnesota's not rebuilding. Like, they will tell you they're not rebuilding. Sure.
Yeah, so they're not even in a position to get one of those top four guys. They won't be, in my opinion. I don't know. This team just looks like it's going to be mired in mediocrity forever and ever. It makes me sad. I saw upside not too long ago.
Let's talk about things we like in order to finish this thing out.
Oh, thank goodness.
Go ahead. Tell me something you do.
Hey, the Pellies got back on the right track. They handed the Raptors their first loss with Kawhi in the lineup. Anthony Davis was awesome. Ejuan Moore was awesome. Drew Holiday is a first-team All-NBA defender, and anyone who says anything to the contrary can eat my shorts. The Pellies, listen, second place in the Western Conference is wide the hell open. I am confirmation biasing all up and down this one, but hot damn, let's have some fun with the Pellies. Let's get them back on the right track. Certainly getting them into a rock solid playoff position. Can't be too hard. They are at 7-6 right now. The NBA doesn't put numbers next to the players or next to the teams on their standings, so I'm kind of annoyed by that. But you know, they're right on the fringe, certainly in the mix of things. And I love the way that they played last night. Got back after that Niners game and just took in the entirety of the game, even before the Warriors game, and that was probably a mistake. But yeah, really enjoyed the way they played last night. Looked a little bit more like the Pellies I expected. They weathered the storm with Anthony Davis out for a while. Now I'm expecting them to go on a nice little run here and kind of take their rightful spot amongst the best in the Western Conference. Where are you right now? What's making you happy? What is your anti-Wolves?
I'm here for the Charlotte Hornets, baby.
I
love the Charlotte Hornets this year. Net rating right now is at 7.1.
Yeah.
114.4 offensive rating, 107.3 defensive rating. Now, look, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say that there is reason for some skepticism. Like, if you look at their list of wins, it's not necessarily a murderer's row.
Nope. But
go ahead.
Good. I mean, you win games. You got to play the schedule in front of you.
You play the schedule in front of you. You know, their wins are against Orlando, Miami, Chicago, Miami again, Cleveland, Atlanta, Detroit. So, you know, grain of salt. But they played, like, I believe it's something like a 1 or 2 point game twice with the 76ers. They have lost to Oklahoma City by 4. They lost to, I want to say, Milwaukee by like 4 on opening night or 2 or something on opening night. So they've been super close with the teams at the top of the East. they just haven't finished it. And that's always been like the big problem with Charlotte, right? Is can they finish games? Like they've had such an inordinate difference in terms of net rating and record in the negative sense because they have such a bad close games record over the course of the last 2 seasons. So like they're going to have to prove it at some point against the really good teams. But Kemba has been like a very, very real, legit, like first or second team All-NBA guard so far this year. He is having a free agency season to end all free agency seasons, and I absolutely love it. I am here for the Charlotte Hornets. They're just super fun. I've really enjoyed them.
I think this is totally sustainable. Eastern Conference isn't a murderer's row. I like the top of the Eastern Conference, but like
I told you from the start of the year that this was my team that like I was surefire.
We both took the over. We both hammered the over on that. I think they were at like 38. It was baffling to us. Tony Parker is like still really good, and
Tony Parker on the floor this year. The Charlotte Hornets have a 115.7 offensive rating and a 105.2 defensive rating. That's really good. Miles Bridges has been a really good rookie too. Like
that's not a check. Miles Bridges was supposed to be. Miles Bridges was kind of exactly what that team needed. Perfect kind of tweener NBA guy. I'm a little
ready, no question.
A little concerned about Malik Monk's injury, what that means, all that. But Kemba is playing at an MVP level. That is not something that is going to get a lot of hype early, and for all the reasons you listed earlier. But like what he is doing right now is absolutely MVP worthy.
We're getting a Nick Batum assance.
I'm glad. I've always been a big Nick Batum fan.
They're a +10 with Nick Batum on the floor.
Last year, my dude looked shot, and I wasn't expecting anything to bounce back. But like, this is a team that does nothing poorly. I'm just looking for something that they do incompetently, where their Achilles heel is. They have a good effective field goal percentage. They have a good true shooting percentage. They rebound well. They offensively rebound well. One of the better offensive rebounding teams in the NBA.
They never turn the ball over.
Never turn the goddamn ball over. Their assist-to-turnover ratio right now is 1.96, which is, I think, second to the Warriors. Indeed, it is. They do get a lot of assists. I mean, it's not the Warriors. It's not 66%, but like for a penetrate and dribble point guard, who is also high usage, 58% and halfway, right in the middle of the league there is pretty damn good. So it is. I mean, who's going to take him? Who's going to take him in that division?
Oh yeah, like I think they're going to win the division. I'm at that stage where I think Charlotte wins the division.
That was not something that was guaranteed at the beginning of the season, but like, yeah, you and I were both on the bandwagon. There's a little bit of confirmation bias, but all they have to do is beat Orlando, Miami, Washington, and Atlanta.
Yeah,
like okay, I think they can handle that. I mean, there are five good teams? Indiana, Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think they're
Toronto, Philadelphia, Boston. They're the sixth best team.
Yeah.
Right now, they're playing like the fourth or third.
Yeah.
No problems here. All right, get in on the Hornets bandwagon. They're not going anywhere.
And seriously, watching Kemba is super fun.
I'm happy.
Can't recommend that viewing experience enough.
Contract year Kemba, baby. They're definitely not trading him now, though. That was something that we kind of extolled upon early and often. Like, what happens with Kemba? Do they move on? You can't possibly move on now, which I don't think is a bad thing. It was kind of the same thing that happened last year in Washington, where it's like, well, I guess you have to give John Wall that contract. And it's like, no, you don't. This year, it's like, absolutely give Kemba the contract. Now, financial restrictions in Charlotte might make that a little bit more difficult than other places. But Hornets are here. They're well coached. Good roster. I don't think they're going anywhere.
What else is going on in your life? Anything exciting?
I gotta go watch
TV shows going on. What's up?
Well, dude, I got two NFL teams, and now apparently the fall of a dynasty that I got to deal with.
And you have the Peterman coming.
And the Peterman coming. I've had a bunch of people staying in this guest bedroom lately. Got a baby coming, not mine, but God. I know I didn't tell you. But yeah, like this is like a nursery right now. It's kind of strange. My girlfriend's brother's, I guess she's 6 months old, is coming all the way from Scotland. So my sleep schedule is going to be messed up. And then we're heading to Seattle for an entire week on Thanksgiving. So good times.
That's the dream. Isn't it? No, it's not. You're not going to be having many dreams right now because of that baby. I went and saw Overlord this weekend. Overlord?
Oh, how is that?
It is odd and very different.
Okay. Not a theater experience, yay or nay?
I think definitely a theater experience.
Would you not have enjoyed it if it was on your home screen?
I would have enjoyed it if it was on my home screen. I thought it was like good, not amazing. Laura thought it was Laura thought it was awesome. She loves movies like that, though.
Interesting. Nazi mutants.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
The first scene is 100% worth seeing in theaters. It is
interesting.
One of the coolest, like,
show up on time.
Yeah, one of the coolest like war scenes I can think of in a while.
Okay.
It's very, very good. It's like a legit like combo war horror movie.
I can get behind that.
They play with both genres really, really well. And I really like that. And Wyatt Russell is awesome too.
I just watched the Sunny finale.
I'm not caught up on It's Always Sunny.
First off, Sunny has been just a dominant force for 13 years now. The finale is amongst the most peculiar pieces of television I've ever seen.
I've heard this year is really good.
It's very, very good. And it was like oddly moving.
Mm-hmm.
Not oddly. Like it was straight up. I think that was the intent. But like deep and comprehensive, and it kind of wrapped up an entire season. If I didn't know better, I would have said that would have been it. It was kind of like the Nathan For You Finding Francis, where it's sort of this avant-gardian separation from the normal tone.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of this is the swan song, the final goodbye. But they got renewed, so it just sort of wrapped up what was a very interesting and aggressive season. Like just very different from what they had previously done in a lot of ways. But that show will stand the test of time, man. Like I will stand for Sunny left and right. It is shocking how funny it is. I rewatched all of them like a couple months ago. And so kind of now bringing it back through, it was just insane.
Yeah. Have you watched Homecoming yet?
Homecoming?
With Julia Roberts and Sam Esmail's new show?
No, I saw it's Amazon, right?
Yeah.
What do we got?
It is good. It's like Julia Roberts is like a war, like people who come back from war. She is their psychologist and therapist.
Okay.
But it's like a thriller that plays with time and.
Oh, come on. I can't do another messing with time thriller.
It's pretty good. It's but it's Sam Esmail. Like he actually knows what he's doing.
Fair enough.
This is not someone who is incapable of dealing with twists.
Fair enough. Though, you watched that after you saw Bohemian Rhapsody, right?
No, I watched it before.
Oh, well, that would have been interesting information.
I'm watching Mr. Robot right now. I'm like, I'd seen the first like season and a half, and now I'm like catching up for the fourth and final season.
I did not watch after season 2.
Yeah, I'm not even through season 2 yet.
It dragged.
I heard season 3 is good though.
I think I actually watched the beginning of it, and I disagree. But there we are. I watched all of the All or Nothing with Manchester City.
Oh boy!
Did you taken those in yet?
I have not. I'm not big on like All or Nothing and like Hard Knocks.
Oh, disagree. I love that. Hard Knocks has gotten kind of terrible now that we know what All or Nothing is. But those All or Nothings are fantastic. That first one with the Rams is like just insane.
But like Hard Knocks was fine for me this year because I got to laugh at Bob Wiley. But like
it didn't dive in at all. Like there was no editorial comment.
I'll be honest. It got to the point where I was just like consuming the online memes of Bob Wiley.
Yeah.
I watched like the first 3 episodes. The first one was really good, and then like the next 2 sucked. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I watched them, but not great. The All or Nothings are next level, better access, better idea. I pretty much watch all of them. I even watched the one on the New Zealand All Blacks. I really enjoy them. In the Manchester City one, you have to commit, but I think it pays off, especially if you're not fully familiar with like the Premier League season. I do think that it does a nice job of like just handling it for the casual fan while also giving the diehards a little extra something.
Okay. I'm here for that.
I would recommend it. It's definitely a good thing to knock out on a flight.
Okay. That's what I did with Jack Ryan. So
yeah. Amazon is just absolutely mastering the I'm on an airplane iPad content right now. I imagine Homecoming is very similar to that.
Homecoming's only half an hour, so yeah, you can like 100% knock it out on a flight.
Entire season. These are like 1 hour each, but there's like 6 or 7 of them. So yeah, I had gotten through a bunch of them, and then had Yeah, I got Draymond's now been suspended. We're having fun.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Warriors suspended him. It's let me pull it up here. Draymond Green has been suspended for 1 game for contact detrimental to the team. It was announced today he'll serve a suspension during tonight's game against the Atlanta Hawks. Because he called KD a bitch a bunch, which is not new.
It's very odd. It's very strange to me that he is suspended for this.
Draymond probably took it one step too far, projecting his own insecurities from the failed play onto the situation. And Kevin kind of gets preferential treatment around that team right now.
And now we have a situation where this is now a story for sure.
This is a thing. It won't be a thing in the long run, but it is a thing right now. The Warriors have escalated the scenario by putting a title on it. Suspension.
Why would you do that? Just sit him out and say, it's illness.
Yeah, that's weird.
Do you have to dock him a paycheck?
Yeah, that's pretty much how suspension works. I got to go to work, Sam.
All right, Dieter. Have fun.
I won't.
Please go tell the people where they can read your work on Draymond Green getting suspended.
San Jose Mercury News, my Twitter feed at @dkurtenbach, KURTENBACH.
Go to The Athletic. Keep me employed. I have a lot of good draft content coming out there. Just wrote something on Darius Garland today. Go read that. Kind of comparing the moves that he is learning right now to the things that current NBA players do and how he's watching tape to pick those up. So read that. Rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. The dog is also telling me that this podcast is over. She's sitting here demanding that I stop. So until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.